Keith, quorum is 5, right?
Quorum's 5.
I thought earlier I saw.
You need more than half of your people.
One
more than half.
7,
So you need
right?
Oh, yeah, that's why we did 7.
Yeah.
You're right.
so you need 4.
Cool, perfect.
Okay, we are ready to begin. The fire
Tell
deputy-
me who's present.
Okay, we're gonna do a roll call. Let's get starting with the Fire Deputy Community Committee meeting, and it'll begin at exactly 10 a.m. as previously announced. So roll call. Don, you're on the phone, Don Clark. Mike Overby's here. Vicki Landon is here. Scott Schaefer is here. So we got 4. Mark Manley said he was going to call in. He's not here. And David Hartson, I said he had a conflict, but he may call in. So that being said, Pledge of Allegiance. Repeat after me. Pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Okay.
This is Don again. I missed one of the attendees. Give me the people attending again.
Okay, we got Vicki Lennon, Mike Overby, Scott Schaefer, and yourself. Also in attendance is the fire chief, Mr. Bonner. We have a presenter here that we'll be introducing, Gena Bonner. And we have an honorable city council member here, Mr. Bill, and another guest. Okay. Okay, the agenda is in front of you. It says draft 2. I would ask for approval of the agenda or any other items that you would like to add or change or.
I make approval for the agenda.
I'll second.
Okay, so Vicki suggested approval. Scott seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, the next item is approval of the minutes for the last meeting on May 3rd, which is attached to the 3 pages that I passed out. I hope you've had a chance to look at those. And are there any questions or comments before we vote?
Just some errors in, like my name is
Okay,
Spelling.
wrong and in
okay.
the roll call.
All right,
My
okay.
name's wrong.
I mean, that,
Well,
other than that, nothing.
No,
okay, Scott. Oh, Shovel.
Yeah, it's in there a couple of times too.
Okay, well,
That's all right.
we will correct the names. Anything else? Yes.
You have people on the phone?
We have Don Clark on the phone. We have 4.
You have 4?
Yeah. And the 7 is the total, so that's more than half according to
Oh,
Mr. Boggs.
are you on the board now? You just don't like to sit up there?
I didn't, no, I guess.
Yeah,
Does it matter?
you should be up there. Yeah, okay, because I'm looking and going, oh, you have 2 people.
Yeah. Now we got, Mark Manley was supposed to be calling in, he hasn't yet, so.
Here you go.
Okay.
I just went. Oh, wait, don't. You don't-
Any other suggested changes to the minutes for the last meeting? You want to make a motion to
I
accept?
make a motion to accept the approval of the minutes of the last meeting of 5/3/23.
I'll second.
Okay, another second by Scott. Okay, the next very important agenda item, according to Mr. Boggs, is we got to have a separate secretary. I volunteered to do it last time, but he says that's not kosher. So.
I can't, I've got 2 businesses.
Don, do you want to recommend anyone? If they're not here, it's your problem right now.
I have no recommendation of a person I will continue to serve until you find a person who's willing to join the committee and serve as secretary.
Is that doable according to the protocols of committees?
Did you say that you had somebody that you thought might join?
Well, I
to
thought
be the
maybe Don
secretary?
would be. In our very first meeting, there was some discussion of Don's wife, but she's not a member of the committee.
Right, and actually, they're not here.
Yeah,
So you need somebody that's here. I
to
know.
be this acting secretary.
To be secretary on the board.
Okay.
Well, to actually be on the board.
Yeah,
You need to
board.
be here.
But they need to be here.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, Keith's looked through all that.
So what do we do then?
We'll have to table that for now as far as
You don't table, you postpone.
postpone. Sorry.
Table means it never comes back up.
Okay, postpone.
And,
And then we'll have to do some recruitment
yes,
and discussion with people that live here in Angel Fire that can at least commit to
At least
being
in the
here.
area.
okay. Maybe, and I know we've got the conference call going on, but is this being recorded right now?
From my understanding, yes.
So that'll help facilitate me writing the minutes
Is
again.
the little recorder out up there?
I believe we're using the owl.
Oh.
Does it need to be moved closer or is it?
No, you
No.
don't touch that.
Okay.
He has everything
All right,
set.
as long as it's capturing. Okay, well, I will again draft and send out for any discussion for the next meeting. Hopefully, we'll have a member that's been able to join us. Okay. Going on to item B of old business, and there has been a lot of activity. Looking forward to have everybody on the same page with the slash disposal issues, things going forward, because that is a very big item. So, Mr. Fire Chief, you want to update us?
Yeah, absolutely. So Slash is going very well. We are receiving multiple compliments on how we're doing. And the stuff that's coming in, we're getting rid of as it's coming in, so we're not creating additional problems to the Slash pit. We are getting rid of it as it's coming in. We did hire a Slash supervisor and operator. He starts next week. And hopefully with him coming on, with his CDL license and everything, we can start getting rid of some of the Slash pit problem that we have out there. As far as the grant that we got $75,000 grant to purchase a mobile chipper so we can bring it around. We did get permission from the grant to go down in sizes as far as like, we put it in for like a 24-inch chipper. So it can handle up to
24
20.
diameter.
Yes. That machine's a little out of our price range. So we're gonna come down. We did get permission from the grant writer to go down in size. I think the smallest is like 15 that we can go, but which is fine. There's actually a machine we're looking at purchasing for about $88,000 in Albuquerque. So hopefully readily available at the start of the fiscal year, we can get that. And then I have had 2 different conversations with agencies about receiving chips. They're nonprofit agencies. One of them is a little bit more established. The other one is kind of trying to get established. So there may be an opportunity to donate some chips to other agencies. Yes.
Yeah, I'm with the dog park.
Okay.
And we had an arrangement with the previous Slash person that was at the transfer station that we would be getting dog chips for the dog park.
How much do you want?
6 inches, and for an acre and a half acre.
6 inches.
Yeah. And our contractor doesn't want the chips until he puts in the posts and fencing. And we have utility or maintenance gates, so it can be brought right in.
Could you, again, tell us your name for the record?
Francesca Zopay. I'm the financial director of the 501(c).
So
Friends of the dog park.
absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
Without a doubt, 100%. You can have the chips. Is there a way you can pick up the chips, or do you want us to drop off the
We're
chips?
gonna drop them off.
We're gonna drop them off?
Yeah.
Okay.
The previous arrangement was to have them dropped off,
Okay.
you know, if I went to the location,
Mhm.
and talked to Chris, I think it was.
Yes. Mhm.
And he said that your truck was down or something like that.
Our current truck that we would be using is down. We're hoping it's fixed either this week or next week.
Oh, okay,
Hopefully perfect timing for a CDL driver to come
okay.
drop it off.
Yeah,
We're also working with streets and solid waste to try to borrow a truck. So
Okay.
if it's gonna be a delay in that, hopefully we can just borrow a truck, but.
okay, yeah,
Yes.
because we're having our grand opening July 4th. So we'll.
So you'd like it before July 4th?
Yeah, well, yeah, should I just contact Chris and let him know when our contractor's ready for him to bring it in?
Whenever you are ready for them,
Yeah,
you can either give Chris a call or myself a call and we'll make sure you get it.
okay.
How big is the area, just out of curiosity?
The medium, large dog area is 1 acre, and then the small dog area is a 1/4 acre.
Having dealt with this with a community garden, you know, getting a big load of chips is one thing, spreading them can be quite another thing, so.
Is your
Bobcat
contractor?
or something like that, you need to think of that.
Right, well, the arrangement before was that it would be spread as well.
Okay.
That as you're pouring it, you would, you know,
Spread it.
spread it that
Okay.
way, and then any kind of tuning we can do.
Okay.
But,
Okay.
yeah.
We could definitely do that.
Oh, cool.
And then, opportunities, so that's another great opportunity for slash disposal.
Yeah,
Absolutely, we could do that for you.
and then, you know, you could always put them outside the dog park area, because I don't know if you know where it's at. It's it's not next to the soccer baseball diamond, but it's a little bit further down the hill there.
Okay,
So there's, you know, there's wood chips being put down right now, new wood chips it looks like, but it would be nice to have it further towards the dog park too. So we have a lot of opportunity for taking your slack.
Perfect.
Your slash.
and we could definitely chip that up.
Cool, okay.
Okay, so that's item B. Any other comments or questions of the fire chief? Okay, item C, other related grants in process or both known to be coming in the future. And I haven't talked to fire chief about anything other than the community wildfire defense grant, which is the second round of the big one we talked about last week, which the Cimarron Watershed Alliance has 2 grants. We've been notified that whereas the RFP was going to come out in June, now it's going to come out in July. So we act, you know, I think that's a blessing to get our act together, if you will. And Ms. Gena Bonner is going to talk a little bit more about that, because she does represent the wildfire, or the Watershed Alliance. Anything other than that one, and you know, we could certainly go into a lot of detail about that. I sent out a link. It was a video, the only one that I could see that kind of simplifies the wildfire grant process, State of Oregon Forestry Department. And it talks certainly about the 22, but then what they think is going to be happening in 23. If you've had a chance to look at that, if not, you know, we all sort of need to be on that same page with respect to what the Forest Service requires, what's acceptable, eligible, and what is not. Anything about that grant? I don't want to go into depth on that now because we're not ready. We haven't seen the RFP. The others, other than your chipper grant, and anything else you guys are working on?
Well, yeah, so the CWDG grant, I am talking with Rick Smith, pretty regular about it. Every meeting I seem to go to, he's there. So I see him all the time, and I'm always talking to him. He is gonna help us write that grant, and since he has already been awarded a grant of this kind of caliber, I think there's really no reason to reinvent the wheel, and I'll kind of lean on him as far as education as for us to be able to get the grant. Another one that we put in for was, it was a smaller grant, and it's through BLM. It's for $550,000, and that will start to like help thin around, and hopefully it expand the fuel break a little bit to where we can benefit from that as well.
The
But
one up along the ridge?
yes, so that one's more up in the air, but we did put in for that, to start ending. So more information on that will come, but those are the only two right now that's kind of
Yes.
considered.
Well, and again, I don't want to rush the discussion on the big grant that could be millions of dollars, but, and I'm glad that the mayor's here, because it would be my thought, and again, maybe I'm off base, that there needs to be some kind of an agreement reached between the village, since we would, I think, be the party submitting the grant and the Cimarron
not.
Alliance, no?
We would not be the party.
I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
No, sir, that's not correct.
Right, so
Okay, I
just,
don't know.
yeah, it's the Cimarron Watershed Alliance, I still have a COVID cough, sorry. Cimarron Watershed Alliance is a 501c3,
Right,
and so the grant would go in under their name, and so they're gonna be the fiduciary. And what would happen is that Rick would send out data calls to the village, and you need to decide whether you wanna be the village and the resort, or just the village, because the greater the footprint, the more powerful that is. And then, basically 3 or 4 of us would be writing the proposal, just like on the other one. And we would follow, very strict protocols on how to meet all of the bases for both what's required and how they're gonna be evaluated. So we think we have that process down pretty good, getting really $9.9 million. And so it would be kind of hands off, other than answering data
Right.
calls and then reviewing the document just as an added red team reviewer.
Right, and that would be for chief, that wouldn't be for the committee.
Yeah, so,
okay, so the Angel Fire Community Council, whoever, won't need to approve, even though it's impacting our residents.
No, it would be chief.
Okay. I just wanted, because that
Right.
kind of extends the timeline when you get into a lot of approval process.
Well, yeah, and like you said, he's working closely with Rick. They're not gonna reinvent
Okay, I
the
just
wheel
wanted
and
to-
try to add more
Yeah.
to it or make it more difficult. We'll
I
just
just
do
want
it the way
to
they
plan
did the
ahead,
last
and
one.
that's a
Right.
key point.
It's only gonna benefit the
Absolutely.
village.
No, I mean, I agree with you, I just
Absolutely.
right.
wanted to know what to plan for.
And then it boils down to individual landowners and homeowners.
Yep.
So if there's a match, it has to be a financial match versus an in-kind. That would come from the landowners that have expressed interest. So it wouldn't come from the village.
Okay, well, that's a very key point,
Yes.
because I know it's a timing issue. I guess you could submit the grant with the anticipation of getting all these people that are private
No,
landowners.
you have to talk to
approve
him first.
it. But
We would
in the
talk to
end, you
him
may
first.
not be able to.
Yeah, no, you don't submit without
Right, so
participation.
that's part of the data call, so
Yeah,
that's part of the
but
data
it's
call.
taken care of. This committee won't.
That's a key element, yeah.
Yeah, the only thing I would say that the village might consider is that the CWA is a nonprofit.
Right.
And I'm a volunteer, Kim's a volunteer, but Rick is a paid employee of the CWA. And, you might consider some amount of funding for him to write, to be the lead person on the grant for you. But otherwise, it's just like you say, you get too many hands on the wheel, then the bus goes off the cliff,
Right.
so.
I like how you put that.
So, again, that's, for the record, I guess, an issue that we need to have discussed is if he requires, he needs to give us a proposal.
Right,
Okay.
he's
Well,
not
that would be
requiring
village,
it,
though, not,
yeah,
chief will take care of that. Yeah, it's
Mhm.
not the committee, you don't have to worry about that.
right. It's just something I just wanted to throw out there, that he's a paid employee, and
Okay.
although I work for free, he needs to pay his gas bill.
I'll talk to Rick.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, I'm glad we got those out in the open. Item D, review and approve a modified Fire Adaptive Community Committee mission statement, which we had a draft earlier. And we went through a couple changes, and the one that I sent out, was not the one that I guess was finalized. Did it? Okay,
Do I need to email that to Don?
I'm sorry.
Do I need to email that to Don?
Yes.
Yes, I'll read it for those not, it's a couple, 3 sentences. The Fire Adaptive Community Committee, FACC, was developed to address related initiatives and make recommendations concerning the SLASH program within the Village of Angel Fire. The committee will also make recommendations from the U.S. Forest Service Community Wildfire Protection Plan, CWPP, for the Village of Angel Fire. These recommendations will be to assist the fire department with grant ideas, action plans, educate the public, and any other ideas that could help with prevention, protection, mitigation, response, and recovery for Angel Fire, New Mexico. So that may be a little different than the one I passed out. We'll send that back out, but does anybody, I mean, I think we need to vote on, approving this before we move forward. And so.
Don, did you get that email? I just sent it to you.
I'm looking at the computer. It's probably on there, but I've got you guys on the computer right now. If it's not on there, when I hang up, I'll let you know.
Does anyone have any feedback about the mission statement?
I like it.
I like it.
Okay, so anyone want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the mission statement.
I'll second it.
Okay, Scott seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, that's a key item. New business. Appoint a subcommittee to develop recommendations for a community town hall on fire-related topics in August, including fire prevention plan topics, hardening structures, lot thinning / slap and chip handling, defensible space ordinance, etc. Obtain input and cooperation with Resort Village and AFPO. Okay, the whole point there is in the fire protection plan, there are at least 3 or 4 items that talk about education. And I could go over them again, I got a copy, but the point is, if we don't, do something while people are here this summer, then we miss an window of opportunity. And there are some questions, but I think a subcommittee, I don't want to take the time of this whole committee right now, but my goal, my thought was, if 2 more people could join me, and we'll have some discussion and present what we view as a possible plan of action. I mean, you got 3 entities involved, you got to notify the community. How you do that, I don't think we want to send out emails, but the village could send out an announcement, Resort could send out an announcement, maybe AFPO, and then the topics, what are we going to cover, who's going to cover, that kind of thing. But I think a subcommittee needs to work on this, may have to meet a couple times between now and my recommendation would be the next meeting, which I think would be on July 5th. The 4th is a Tuesday. It's another open item. But any comments or questions concerning that topic?
So just to piggyback on
Yeah.
Mike here a little bit, on the mission statement that we just approved is educate the public. I think that is invaluable as far as educating the public and doing like a large village presentation, village hall. That's a great opportunity to educate the public. So I am in full support of doing the village hall and getting something set up. I think it's great.
Part of our discussion is how do you motivate people to come?
Food.
That's it.
And the other element is, which I think you need to have, and one of the action items of the fire prevention plan says a welcome packet. It doesn't say, okay, when I think of that, I think of new people coming in, but since people haven't been exposed and are already here, it needs to be something that could be placed in a welcome packet for new people, but it needs to be a standalone document, I think. But that's what this subcommittee needs to kind of talk through.
I would love
And
to
what is the cost of printing a bunch of copies?
Well, that's an issue.
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
So-
You can't just decide to do that without
Exactly.
some
So
sort of budget.
we would
This committee
discuss
doesn't have a budget.
I will definitely volunteer to help
Okay.
with that, Mike. I think it's important for me to be a part of that
Yes.
as well. So I will definitely help as far as help you facilitate.
There's a lot of things we could cover.
control.
The question
Absolutely.
is, how deep do we want to go?
Cool.
I mean, one thing might be, and I don't want to extend this discussion, but lot thinning to the quote spec or the ordinance, having photos of what it looks like before and after might be helpful.
Yeah.
Anyway, okay, good. So who other than me, Vicky? Can you
I
participate in
can
that?
work around it with the
Okay.
two businesses.
No, I hear you. I mean, we'll try to come
But,
up with a
yeah.
available time.
Yeah, if we can come up with, because like I said, boy, that's it.
Yeah.
You wouldn't necessarily
Well,
have to have somebody on the board.
Yeah.
You could get someone
This
from
is
the
Don.
Yes,
the
Don?
village.
Dave would be a good person for that group.
There
He's
you
been
go.
He's been involved, I understand.
for about the oldest member of the committee.
Okay, well, and I think the mayor mentioned maybe if we have other parties that,
Longest standing.
Maybe me, you, and Dave.
okay,
Well,
And
could
if
be
you
like-
need me to come
and then
in
we-
once in a while,
Yeah.
if I can make it, I'll
Okay.
make it.
okay, I'll talk.
Does
to
that
you.
help?
Okay,
Mike,
May I make a suggestion?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Once you get something that you might use, you were asking about how to get people in attendance, is use one of the established forums that we have already. The Sunday Farmers Market, have a booth there.
that's a good point.
If you were ready, I would suggest the mimosa.
When did
because
they,
a lot of people go
When
to
does the
that.
farmer's market start? You know?
Sunday, yeah.
This
it's-
coming,
we're full swing, so,
okay,
Yeah,
and the mimosa, that's another point.
well,
Yeah.
mimosas, you couldn't get in. at this
You already got
Yeah.
too many tables.
yeah.
I
But,
could-
you
I could
know,
put information
that would be
on
a
our
suggestion
Yeah.
about how to get things out to people.
Yeah, because.
Don't have them come, kind of a push type
Sure.
of thing,
No, I-
rather than a pull.
Yeah, we got the community bulletin board, but there's just a lot of people that won't be touched by those things. But
Your Facebook page gets a section.
May I say one couple of things? I think we need to go through what's on the computer, and clean up the items that are in effect and the ones that are not in effect. One thing that brought the surge of slash out a year ago or a couple of years ago was a situation that was published that set up actually deadlines for cleaning your lot up according to whether you have an acre or larger, and penalties if you didn't do it.
Yeah,
I'm not sure if that's still in effect, but I
ordinance
think
has-
there are a lot of things.
has the ordinance
Go
been
ahead.
changed? It's still-
Oh, no, it wasn't an ordinance. That was in 2018, 2019.
it was earlier, yeah.
Yeah, it was
And,
2018, I think, wasn't it, Bill?
I think so.
And there was
Yeah.
a deadline, so once it's reached the deadline, that's,
That's it.
Well,
yeah. And I don't
And a
know,
lot
that
of
was before I was in
people-
office.
Yeah, there was,
Fought
a-
against it.
well,
Yeah,
there,
they did.
it was approved. I remember it was on an earlier committee, but it was approved. It had a $50 fine. And if you didn't meet the requirements, and like Don said, I think it went up. Like if you had an acre, you had a year.
But there was no enforcement.
No.
There was no way
that-
to enforce it
That's a
at
good
that
point.
time, so
No,
I don't know if that needs to be something
No.
re-reviewed.
it's not it was just a resolution, I think, that was put into place, which doesn't go past the deadline.
and
So-
nobody really followed it,
No.
even the empty lot people.
Well, and I think education, kind of going back to that, is
Right.
more important than trying to like shove
Or
Force
someone.
an
something
ordinance.
down
Yeah.
somebody's
Exactly,
throat.
exactly. And so
Yes.
if we educate and focus on that, people are gonna start to want to do what's
Yeah.
best.
Well, let me say something else about that. People did listen to it. I have a neighbor that has about an acre lot next to me that went in and completely cut the trees, cut the dead. He had about 6 of those boom truck loads that got in, that were like the last loads before they quit picking up.
Okay.
So that had a big effect on the amount of slash that came out
Yeah.
after that was passed.
That caused that big pile out there.
Yeah,
But Bill just.
Yeah, because I was on that original fire committee too, way back there.
Okay.
And that that came out of that committee, but it never went to council as far as I know.
Oh, okay.
So but people responded. Of course, we were having forest fires and that got people's attention quickly.
And again, I remember you participating and I think we need to look at the minutes of that meeting to see how it was handled. 'Cause I know it was presented.
Well, Bill was on council at the time, and he just said it didn't make it to
I don't
council.
remember that ever coming to council.
It just was an agreement from the committee.
I would
But people
respectfully, disagree, because it was on the committee that was approved. But that's my recommendation.
He said it was
It was
approved, but it
approved by
didn't
the
go
committee,
to
but I don't
council.
think it was ever presented to council.
You think it did?
If
go to
it was,
council
then we'd
from
have
the
to go back
committee.
and look. But
Let's look at the minutes is all I'm saying.
I can see what I can find as far as.
Okay.
It would be, yeah, it would
I
be.
mean, if it is or isn't.
I remember the discussion even because Rogers was against cutting his tree down that was so close to his house.
Yeah.
That
I
you
know.
planted for his mom, for your mom.
That
I
was
do
my
remember- I was
tree, yeah,
there. I was
and
there
it's
too.
still there, and it's a leaf tree, it's not a needle tree.
Okay,
Yeah, I do remember that, in the discussion.
okay, so the action item is the fire chief is gonna check the minutes of it. And I can kind of give you some timeframes, Bill, if you.
Well, I may not look at the minutes. I may have like the documentations
Okay.
that you talked about, because the conversation sounds vaguely familiar, which means I've read something somewhere, and I'll see if I can find
Okay.
that document.
Good. I think it's very clear that we need to know one way or the other.
My only comment on that document,
If you look at the files, the fire chief that was there prior to you,
Two
not the
parts.
last
No,
guy,
it
but the
was-
guy, right, two guys,
That was Murtaugh.
it'll be in his files.
Yeah.
I believe that's where I found it, Don.
I
It
think
was
I
in
have it.
John Murtaugh's files.
Right.
Okay, well, we'll suspend that discussion until we learn more. Now, we do have some time, and I'm glad that Gena Bonner is here because, and unfortunately, I was not able to attend. I was out of town, but I know Fire Chief attended a meeting of the Taos Pines Volunteer Fire Department on a topic that she's going to present, and I've got a slide projector here. Relog in, I'm sorry. But the topic is simulations that have been done and could be done concerning fire behavior that, you know, you can, I'll let her, I don't want to steal her presentation, but it could be used by us as we think about priorities, you know, for the big grant going forward. So let me just turn this back on.
and I made a couple of extra copies because I just wasn't sure if we were gonna get the technology together.
Oh.
Can I actually still use this? And while Mike's loading this up, I'll just briefly talk about sim table exercise and kind of the little bit of benefits, hopefully not stealing any of your thunder. One of the best things about it is it kind of gives a great visualization of what could happen if there was a fire that started. I've been a part of the sim table exercise multiple times. The recent one that I attended at Taos Pines, I feel was hugely beneficial for the community in the sense that early evacuation was one of the
Takeaways.
for Taos Pines in particular, because there's certain houses that kind of get blocked off almost rather in the first 6 hours of any incident that we ran. And so I have contacted SimTable out of Santa Fe to try to get kind of dates, prices to come here. And I think it would be beneficial to do it at one of our fire adaptive committees. That would basically be the whole committee, and maybe we schedule it for 2 hours versus 1 hour. But that's kind of what I wanted you guys to know before you start talking.
Okay, all right, no problem. Again, my name is Gena Bonner. I'm up in Taos Pines Ranch. I'm the Firewise Committee. I'm also on the board for the Cimarron Watershed Alliance. So I have a two-fer hat on there. And what we did was we held a 2-hour community meeting to fulfill our annual education for Firewise. but it was very powerful and impactful, and I'll kind of explain, why. So I just put together just a couple of slides, just to kind of tell you what we're about. We are also a fire adapted community as well as Elk Ridge, and this is a greater way to look at, not just Firewise, because you have all the communities whenever you're talking about a fire. Okay, so with this simulation, we of course were covering the resident mitigation. You can see my thing there. Also, we covered the wildfire response because we had the fire people there from Moreno Valley as well as Chief here. We talked about safety and evacuation and whose lots we're, blocking up those entrances, because we were feeling pretty confident that we had 2 ways in, 2 ways out. Not so. So that was that. We also had our partners there. Carson National Forest came because it borders Taos Pines as well as Taos Pueblo, who could not make it, but they have received the presentation on that. Landscape treatments are part of this because this ties back into your big grants, for this. And the reason why I wanted to show this is that, we think of our own little communities. This is a village, this is Taos Pines, this is whatever. And really, when a fire goes through here, we're all one village. This is all of Moreno Valley, so we are all one. And the more that we look at it from that integrated perspective, the more impact that we're going to have. And going back to the CWDG grant, the more footprint you can put, the more people that you impact or acreage or that gets a higher score. All right.
Yeah, I saw that in that video that they really give you extra points for cooperation or alignments or whatever the words are.
Right, and I think that was one of the reasons why we were successful in that $8 million grant, what we call the CC WUI, COFAX Collaborative Wildland Urban Interface. We wanted to use a buzzword and something to capture this, but saying that we had so many, it's like over 2,600 acres, 9 unincorporated communities made a really big footprint. So think about that when you're doing the grants. And there's so much that's been done. Carson's doing their thing, Taos Pueblo's doing their thing, BLM's got some things going, and for us, we had a big meeting on forest partners, and I know you were there, and I told the head guy at Carson, I said, we just have to get to yes. The government, this NEPA stuff is putting too many no's. I said, this is a crisis and we need to realize it and let us get to yes. A bird can move 50 feet, really, but if you burn a habitat down, then what? So anyway, that's my NEPA soapbox. This is part of your education. I just want to throw this in here because it's really, really, really important. And this is a message that I kind of stole from Rene Romero of Taos Pueblos. He says, it's nature's way. Fire is nature's way. And so we all have to learn to live with it. We are designated, this Taos Pines, as you guys are as well, a high wildfire risk, period. The forests haven't burned in 100 to 200 years. And they are going to burn. So it's not a matter of if, it's when. And so, you have to educate people to create defensible space around their homes and structures, and also to harden their homes, as you were talking about, with the roof type, the siding type, and also use landscaping. I'll throw out that we had, from Firewise, we get big packets of defensible space brochures for free that could go in your newcomer package or welcome, and so that's for free. We have the same problem as some of you have, the communities. Some people just don't want to let go of their trees, period. I talked to, well, anyway, that's a sidebar. But fire is important for the forest health. I think Rick Smith will tell you can't chip your way out of this. So there is going to be a fire component. It's important for the forest, and we all live in a forest or adjacent to a forest. So we just need to prepare for that. And education, is huge. We had a lot of people invited from Taos Pines, and half a dozen showed up, so it's the usual suspects. that do everything on every committee, whatever. And so even with all of that, we could not get great participation because a lot of our folks live part-time as well. So, all right, so I added this bullet here. So we use sim tables, Stephen Guerin out of Santa Fe, to kind of model fire and smoke behavior as well as looking at evacuation. These files are really big, so we're just going to show a little clip here if we have internet connection here. But what is a sim table? There you go, Chief. Front and center here. Okay, a sim table is a sand table, all right? And so it's a calcium carbonate sand, but it's sand size. And then you overlay a topo map on top of it, and then you kind of shape the sand to mimic the topography. Because when you're running scenarios, you're going to see, which way the fire runs and, things like that. I think everyone here knows fire runs uphill. And then we overlaid a scenario using GIS and our particular subdivision lot maps. And the colors aren't showing up here, but we looked at lots, that were thin, that were not thin, that planned to be thin, that were partially thin. And it was really, really good. We had everyone is engaged around the table, and I can hear Rick's voice, I could hear Chief's voice, I can hear my husband's voice. Everyone was engaged. Carson was engaged. It was really a good learning opportunity. But because of that, there's so much engagement that just listening to a link, it's just all you can hear is it's too much noise. So it's hard to learn from someone else's sim table exercise. Also, those file sizes are very, very big. And what my partner in crime did on the Firewise committee is that she created a short video for us to look at. But you can see around the edges there. So we're going to show what the fire did. And the clip she selected talks about evacuation, as well. So everyone hold their breath. Well, any questions, particularly Don on the phone? Do you have any questions?
No, not at this time.
Okay. All right, so what Mike wanted to know is can we use a sim table exercise to figure out where the priority should be? And I think this is a great education tool, but I would be surprised if Rick and the chief couldn't go out and tell you exactly on a map where your priorities should be, because most of the fires here come from the south, southwest. You know what the wind speeds are. We just had some unbelievable winds last year. So you might think about using it more as an education tool to get people. And what I wanted to do was scare a little more people, to be honest, to show them why it's important, in that. And we'll see if we can run this. This is just a short clip.
I don't have this set up unless somebody can give us the Wi-Fi. My computer wasn't set that way. Anybody know what that is?
Wireless is good, I think. I don't know if that's what's in here, but Keith's not here, he had to leave. All lowercase, wireless is good, I think.
So what is which one of these do I select? Office public? No.
Yeah, it would be guest, or I can't see that, but
Here, I'm gonna just let you play hotspot.
Okay. I love how younger folk know how to do technology.
Yeah.
I'm like, I do PowerPoint, Excel, that kind of stuff.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
When the fire department, the fire guys were here when we had the big fire, they did a lot of stripping and things like that. Do we have a documentation on what they did and where it's at and all that sort of stuff? So you have a jumping off point?
I asked for service, could they provide me a map? And no one ever was able to get back to me. Let me just make this comment. Because I'm so interested in this, I, in a friend from Texas are gonna hike the fire break this week with GPS tracking, so we'll know exactly where it is. And I'm also gonna take a lot of pictures. They use different kind of equipment, to thin and mulch. And I've just heard of it. I haven't seen any pictures of any of that. So anybody wants to go, we're leaving
Well, I'd love to see the pictures, for sure.
Thursday and Friday.
Yeah,
About 20-some miles long.
yeah, it's between 300 and 600 feet wide, depending on the steepness. It starts at the 64 at the Taos and Colfax County line, and also Taos Pines. And I thought it went just to the La Luna or Luna fire, but someone said no, it went all the way to.
Well, because we're gonna park one car at the end, the intersection of Forest Road 76 and 176. When I drove up there, there was too many snowbanks, so I stopped there.
Right.
But that's where we're planning on ending, starting at Palo Pass. And I believe it doesn't go right along the ridge or the boundary line because it's too steep in many places. So it's down on the Carson National Forest line, if you want to call that, or their property.
Right, and that was a great thing. So I have 2 links here. We'll just hold our breath here. I'm gonna do the short video. This was the one that was doctored just to say.
Verifying, almost had it for you.
Did you? Well, I thought it said, I asked it to skip it. Maybe I can't skip it.
It said verifying the link
There you
or
go.
something. There you go.
Click on that.
Okay. Right. I'm gonna get rid of this Facebook notification. Sorry about that.
Hopefully I won't get any nasty grams.
Volume.
So these colors kind of represent how much a property is thinned or not. And correct me if I'm wrong, but the green have been thinned.
Yes,
The slashed ones are partially thinned.
the purple ones, yeah.
Or
And the
the
hash
purple
are
ones.
gonna be with the CGW. I can't figure out how to turn it up.
And so they're gonna start a fire here shortly, and you can see the fire spread based on the property, whether or not it's been thinned or not.
Use the button to make it go louder.
I guess the wind speed is a variable.
100. Oh, here.
I don't know. You can move closer to listen if you want. And this is a worst case scenario without any intervention. Someone else wants to listen to it, we can pull it up.
So no intervention is no fire response, no fire breaks, no one's digging a line, no one's putting water anywhere. They're just letting it burn at this point. And so the fire spread wouldn't be near as drastic. And you can see where it started the fire here. So obviously someone would call 911. There'd be firefighters at least going to evacuate or something at this point. But that fire is spreading rather quick. Does this one have the time? I don't see the time on it. So there's like a timeline right here.
Yeah.
I can't read it.
Yep, and we can't hear them saying it.
So this is 11 hours into this right now. And so it hasn't really started to hit any residents yet. But this is what a sim table will show you. And what's nice about sim tables as well, especially when you get to the fire side, you can start like digging line, you can start putting water on it to show. But as far as educationally, it's invaluable to see like, oh, that's my house.
Yeah, so these little sticks, they're little coffee stirrers cut in half, and unfortunately there's a shadow from the overhead projector. But these are where the homes are in Taos Pines. And it's
It's spreading fast.
It's spreading fast,
Very fast.
and the mosaic areas are being, slowed down because they're thin.
This is one day right now, 24 hours.
Are there any fire breaks in that area that's been established yet?
No, not true fire breaks.
Not too far away. There was a 5-foot one along the lands that border the Taos Pueblo. And there was prescribed burning behind the fence of the Carson National Forest. But that was done before we had the snow squall and winter squall, and where apocalyptic all blew down again. So we had a group of homes that lived on a corner, that they were trapped every time, and sometimes within 8 hours. So it was really pretty scary.
So is this simulation gonna be used because you do have the funding for the grant to, I know,
Encourage participation?
yeah, well, to start the thinning up in that area, or?
No, not really, because, we think that there will be some mitigation. The purpose was for the education. So,
The fire model for this, though, it showed a drastic slowing of fire activity on thin property. And it was rather drastic between non-thinned and thinned as far as the fire going through the property. And you can kind of see it right here on this green property. This fire all started back here, and it's
Started an angel
still
fire.
slow moving. And this is just spread all around.
right, so now we're in the Carson Forest, and now we're over in Taos Pueblo. So that's why getting your community partners are really important.
Started over by the VA Memorial.
The memorial.
I mean, we talked about it already, that should be what town halls, you should do one of these.
Yeah.
Well, talking about a committee and doing something in August, this would be something I would.
So
study
one of the things about a sim table is if we did the sim table prior to the town hall, because there'd be too many voices at a
Right.
town hall.
Mhm.
But if we had a presentation like this, that we
yeah,
showed the town hall,
yes.
it would be beneficial.
That's
Absolutely.
right.
Right, and I was gonna suggest that you have, Stephen and his gang do scenarios for you,
Mhm.
and that way you could just play those scenarios using realistic parameters.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Like, one of our things was showing an east wind, well, we don't really have that very often.
Yeah.
So, I'm sorry that it's just not loud enough to hear, but they're talking about how quickly it spread, how many, there was an area of Taos Pines that were blocked in, on almost all the scenarios and trapped. So, one of the other takeaways from here for residents was, using code red. And I looked up code red, and my house is not even remotely close. So the pin for my house is not even remotely close.
Interesting.
So we're gonna educate people to be sure to sign up for that.
Okay.
But one thing I didn't understand, Chief, are we moving away from 911, reverse 911 or Colfax County, or is it both?
So it's both. So reverse 911 will use code red.
Oh, okay, okay.
And so it's up to you when you set up the code red
Uh-huh.
on whether or not you want them to call you,
Mhm.
text you, email you, or all of them. It's not truly like a E911, it's code red.
Okay. Yeah. So now they're gonna put in a fire break. I must have done the larger one instead of the smaller one here.
But you can see like the benefit
Yeah,
to doing
yeah.
these. And then if we had the parameters all set up through SimTable to show multiple times angel fire, let's just say it starts on that side or it starts over here, like you can show which houses are gonna be affected, what thinning will look like on property and.
I suppose maybe we had the fire protection plan that showed the highest risk areas within the boundary. And as I recall, most of those are above 434. And the fire would probably come from the east side. So that'll be a challenge. I mean, how do you, I mean, certainly you want to stop it soon. But if it's made it all the way.
It definitely presents like a catastrophic fire is a catastrophic fire no matter where it's coming from. More than likely a catastrophic fire is going to be coming from the south.
Yes.
But there is also the opportunity that it does come from the east because Taos Canyon is in the top 4 in the nation as far as at risk for fire.
You know, the Ute, was it the Ute Canyon or the Ute fire over by the Boy Scout ranch? If
Yeah.
the wind would have been blowing the other way,
Yep, absolutely.
that's a whole other thing.
Which kind of goes right into our last business is
I'm gonna go
next,
shut this down.
as far as next steps are concerned. I will definitely, I actually already left Stephen a voicemail and I think he called me. I have a missed call and it looks, it's like this Santa Fe number. So I will try to set that up and, if I can time it right, maybe it's right at the July meeting, and that's what we do for our next July meeting. But thank you so much.
It is
Thank
super cool, and
Thank
it's a good tool, and education
Right.
is key. And even in Taos Pines, you know, we were the first community to be Firewise back in 2005. The white spots are people or holdouts.
Wow.
Don't touch my trees. Now, these are the really steepest lots too, so the fire is just gonna go right up those lots, right up onto the neighbor's lots.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know how you
Yeah.
And it, just to touch on that a little bit, one of the residents in every scenario we ran lost their home.
yes, there's a lot of them.
And no matter where we started the fire, when it started spreading, it would go to her home every single time.
Every single time. Now, that doesn't mean that the home's gonna be destroyed, because they do have defensible space. Their house is a little closer to the forest line though, but they have rocks around the house, so they've done some landscaping to help, and their home is built, it's got a metal roof, and it's got that non-combustible siding. And they just now had put solar on the roof so that in case of a fire, that they could run the sprinklers because our power is gonna be shut off, and so we have no well water, which is a huge problem in my mind. Is that,
Is one of the variables that you can set, and, you know, would be initial response time.
So that sim table exercise was obviously fast forwarded at a crazy rate of speed. You can do like a real time into where you have like fire trucks responding, digging lines, starting at a certain time. It would just be a larger drawn out scenario because of the time.
Yeah.
Actual
I
time.
mean, having been a snow jumper, that in wilderness areas, the quicker you get there, you know, I mean, but anyway. Okay, well, that is topics that we are on our agenda. I think the one thing I didn't add, and that is because next month, on Tuesday, the 1st is the 4th. So we need to decide, do we want to have this meeting on the 5th at the same time?
I'm good with
You
it.
might better check and see if something else is here on
I'm going to check on that schedule.
Yeah,
We're priority.
on Wednesdays, lodger's tax is priority.
Okay, I'll check that out.
But I think theirs is the second Wednesday of the month, and the 5th would be the 1st, right?
Yeah.
So I
I'll
think
check.
you'd be okay
Okay.
on that.
Okay.
I have it on my calendar. Yeah.
Theirs is the second Wednesday, runs all the time at 10. So. yeah.
Okay.
I have
That,
one more point. I'd like to volunteer for the subcommittee
Okay.
okay.
for the
Oh, man.
education and stuff like that.
Are you a good
Is this your new
secretary?
secretary?
No, I don't do secretary stuff.
I was thinking about, as soon as Gina started talking, I went, there's your secretary.
Now,
I'm
have
on
I,
3
I
boards
know,
already.
I know.
have I asked you that question?
Yes, you did. Yes, you did.
But yeah, you don't have to be on the board to do a subcommittee.
Okay.
Perfect.
Yeah, when you were saying
Community
that,
would be
and you're
great.
listening,
Yeah.
this is like,
We
you piqued my
vote on that?
interest.
No, no, we're good.
Francesca Zopek is her name.
Okay, all, maybe I make a motion.
Oh, the subcommittee, no.
No.
The subcommittee, no,
Yeah.
okay, that's fine.
need a motion.
Yeah, it's fine. We're good.
Okay, well, then that'll be it, and you know what? 11 a.m. on the dot.
I told you.
Right.
You need to do your adjournment. You're still adjourned, or you're still.
You gotta adjourn it.
Okay, then the meeting will be adjourned at 11.
Perfect.
All these little.
See you, Don.
Okay. That was interesting.
I still have one more copy if it's.
Well, I had to take a picture.
Yeah, give it to Mike, because I